Fall at Equestria, The Crystal's Howling Dance. By Megaskullmon. Read by Forrest M. Chapter 3. Community.
All little ponies know the path, but do the creatures know the path within the ending night?
Day 6. Manhattan Outskirts. Shadow and I walked down the road after our night of rest. We came to a large building that seemed to be an apartment building. It was an odd spot heading into Manhattan, but we heard gunfire, so we rushed to the caravan where we were to meet. We saw many slaves and raiders dead. These are Wheel-Tread's ponies. Shadow and I hid behind the caravan to speak to the leader that was standing near a dead pony raider.
About fucking time you two got here. Our target is in that building.
A yellow mare with an eye patch looked at us. She was bald and seemed to be an earth pony.
Go in, kill all you see of our target. The targets will be the ones we send back to Wheel-Tread.
Shadow looked to me, and we both nodded. We stood up as I looked at my pitbuck. The building came in to be Misty Moon's apartment building. I looked back up to the locked door. Then I looked to Shadow, shrugging, charging like a bullet train. Being trained in the way of the Moon Warrior, brute might is all we did. Charging into the door, I smashed it hard. As I broke through it, I told Shadow he could come in. Then we turned to see that this apartment building had been turned into a city within a building. The raiders and slaves that were left wanted to follow, but I lifted my paw and shook my head, mouthing,
"Only those that are smart enough to speak first."
The raiders and slavers looked to each other, and Earth Pony Eyepatch was very angry. I just gave her what my kind can do. I gave her the bird, mouthing,
"Fuck off, pony. Let a real warrior do this."
How we do this, lifting one claw up. Shadow chuckled softly. "Oh, so you're going to be loved by the ponies of Wheel-Tread's home?" I just snorted and headed down the hall that seemed to be evacuated looking into an open room. A bed with two ponies rutting. I blinked, closing the door, looking to Shadow and kept walking on ahead. Looking towards him, I told him with my hand to come along. He whispered softly, "What do you see in there?" I said softly,
"I saw the dance of the continuation of life."
Shadow blinked, looking towards me, not sure he understood. Walking up the stairs, we saw guards roaming around. Some parts of the building having large holes in the walls, and guards shooting outside at the caravan. Slowly, we snuck through the area. It was odd for me being able to sneak. We passed through many stores that seemed closed since this attack, passing a clinic, a weapons shop, and then a food store that seemed to have some meat cooking over a fire. I got to one of the guards who kept firing on the caravan outside. I reached to grab him, then, suddenly, he ducked from a raven that landed, to watch me again. I stared at the raven as it seemed to be following me. This was the second time seeing him. But then it happened. The guard saw me and aimed his gun at me. I looked at him and stared at him with anger, softly saying,
"Do it. Be a stallion, or I will remove your balls with my claws."
The stallion gulped and the gun shook. I grabbed it from him, tossing it away and putting my paw on his mouth and shushed him. I let him go, and he trotted away. I smiled. I may be a warrior, but there is not always a need to kill. Killing is only when a foe fights back and is not ready to shit themselves. I stepped, and my foot went on something stinky and soft. I looked down and cursed under my breath. Shadow laughed softly. I gave him a glare, and both of us kept walking. As I saw a trail of droppings leaving a trail of gunk on my foot, Shadow spoke softly as we kept going past the guards that kept firing on the cavern. "It must be fun to have something that can grab without magic." I stared at him and shrugged. We walked up the stairs and we hit a strange string. A flash hit both of us from some strange magic. As I got hit, I fell back down the stairs, as well as Shadow. My world went black. Old recording of the grand opening.
This is Misty Moon. Our apartment building will be for all ponies, even zebras. We will not allow this war to destroy our peace and friendship. We will never allow it to end our way of life, no matter what. We shall have peace in this building. Both sides shall always be welcomed as friends. Friendship shall never end. We need to bring hope to all. For friendship.
Day 6, inside the apartment. I opened my eyes, all of my armor gone, and my weapons gone as well, chained to another wall. I looked to see if I could find Shadow, but he wasn't there. I sighed, closing my eyes as my ears folded back. Alone again. Then the door opened up. A teal unicorn mare walked in, a cutie mark of a spellbook, and she had kind, motherly teal eyes. Her horn glowed, making it pure light in a flash. As the bright light from her horn glowed softly, she spoke in a soft voice.
Relax. I am not here to harm you. I'm here to help you. You have so many wounds.
The mare seemed to be someone I could like very much so. Then her husband walked in. He was a pure white unicorn with a crosshair on his flank and blue eyes. Kipkipe, he wishes to see her. Kipkipe nodded while she released me, and I grabbed her and held her neck, growling at the stallion.
Let me go free with the griffin, or I will kill her.
Kipkipe didn't seem scared and looked into my eyes, giving me a look with her sweet teal eyes. I just stared and saw my mother in her. I released her and closed my eyes, sighing. This mare seemed to be one I couldn't hurt. They both released me and kept me chained. I was led along, seeing Shadow in the next room getting beaten by the twin of the one that is leading. I didn't wish to say anything, as there were a large amount of guards in this one area. They seemed to be protecting something. Young colts and fillies were here, as well as their families. Something in this building made them that way, it seems. The two took me into a dark room. A very dark, evil-looking room. Kip stayed with me, as her husband smiled to her and left. A large metal pony stared outside and then turned to me, its black-like eyes scanning me, like it's looking into my soul. It walked towards me, the floor under it complaining because of its weight. Then I was face to face with the robotic pony. It spoke. We mean you no harm, but before I go on, you have company with those that wish to hurt other ponies and all creatures that wish to have peace. Why do you wish to help Wheeltread? Do you know what he is? Do you even know why you are being sent to him? None of us know what he wants, but I promise you, he's not as bad as the one named Red-Eye. Now, do you know? I shook my head.
No, I am new to this waste. My own pack shunned me like my mother before me. I am an outcast. I am already dead to them. I am seeking something in this waste.
As I spoke, the raven flew into the room and watched. It seems it wasn't the first time this raven watched this group. I noticed it flying away from a strange round robot I could see from the window. The raven had pure red eyes and seemed to just watch, taking in the entire conversation. The strange metal pony looked at me with great wonder, and then he heard the gunfire outside, giving a robotic sigh. Do you know the targets they want? I nodded.
They want griffins you seem to be holding.
He sighed again. I am the one that founded this community inside this apartment building. I wished to keep the path the Maker followed. But I shall come along, allowing my second-in-command to take over. I shall return after this quest is done. Kip steps forward and nods.
I wish to come along with Silvergunner.
I turned my head to stare at the mare and then to the robot.
You're Silvergunner? The one that left a scar on the way to the city?
The robot nodded, seeming to look back at the way out. I don't stay in here all the time. It's been 20 years since I founded this community. I found guards, doctors, traders, everything you could think of in my trek. Cleaned out this building for those to live. The waste is not friendly. It will wear you down. Most die sooner or later. Most just let it win. Are you willing to follow this trek and become something? I shrugged and shook my head.
I'm no hero. I'm just a warrior that's following a path to find what I need. I don't wish to help this waste. But if I do on the way, good for me, I guess. But I'm mostly in this for me, and just me. You may follow me. You may go with me.
Silvergunner looked back outside, seeming to stare at the building. The building he stared at was called Puppet Creations. Then, before we go, I wish you to come with me, Kip and your griffin friend. Are you willing, Miss Non-Hero, to help with this? I sighed and nodded. Kip unchained me. As Silvergunner had a speaker come out so everyone inside can hear. Hear me, my friends. 20 years I have been your leader. Now, for a time, I'm going to let my second-in-command take over. Crossfire as me and his wife will come with me. You will have the other doctor, Red Needle. Now, my friends, I will speak to the ones outside. Then I shall go. Shadow was released, and all he had was a bruised eye. We were given our gear, while Silvergunner came out with the 4 griffin slaves that he was protecting. No one could hear what he was saying, but Shadow seemed to be staring at a pure white griffin female that had a feather and beads on her head. He seemed to be watching her closely. I looked over at him, and he shrugged. Eyepatch and her ponies left, taking the caravan and the slaves, leaving the dead. Seeming to head away from Manhattan. They seemed to be heading deeper into the wasteland off the roads. Silvergunner looked to the dead, his back opening up and burning the bodies. He came back in and walked up to us, nodding. I have one request before we leave, so I know I can trust you two. Silvergunner said calmly. I looked up to the Robobony and blinked.
All right, fine. What's up?
Silver went to the sick children and wrapped around them. These children are sick from something in the basement. The door is locked, but something is making them very, very sick. Thankfully, it's not spreading, but I can't go, as I need to help study what this sickness is. I want you to go alone. If you come back, then I will trust you and this griffin. Sighing and nodding, I headed downstairs to the basement and blinked, looking around. The way into the basement had a strange fluid coming from under the door. With brute force, I smashed the door open, stepping on the strange fluid. My pitbuck started to click and snap. Looking to it, it says I'm soaking up rats? I went farther in and looked around calmly. This seemed to hold an old freezer, and it's a storage area. Looking around calmly, I saw a workshop around toxic chemicals. I looked at the fur on my foot, but nothing was wrong. Then I noticed what the fluid was. Looking towards the wall, a ghoul hanging on the wall with her stomach cut open, looking to the ground of a little baby. She turned into a ghoul so long ago, while she was pregnant? Walking towards the baby ghoul, I noticed the fluids were coming from them. I looked up to the ghoul mare, seeing her name tag. Hello, I am Misty Moon, manager of the apartment. Looking towards the workshop now, making it out. Saws and hooks to slice this mare open. I'm going to try to let the mare down. It seems the baby is the one causing this sickness. And I started to feel something in the back of my head. Then I felt something at the back of my head. A gun cocking. Halt, creature. Turn around. Slowly. Turning, I saw raiders. Then back to the dead mare and the dead foal, softly saying, You killed her, didn't you? A large ghoul came up into the middle of them. He was in raider gear. He spoke in a calm ghoul voice. I killed that mare. She and I live down here. After all the staff locked us down here and killed the zebras that were here. It was her fault for allowing them to be here. This apartment was meant for ponies only. She was pregnant while this happened. The little one died in her womb. She carried it for 200 years. A way to punish herself. So I had enough. And she didn't care for the fact I made a small raider gang. Growing very angry, my eyes started to glow a dark blue, then flickered.
Whatever is coming from that little one is causing the children above to be sick. It's been 200 years. Time to let go of the past. Now, because of you, children might die.
Looking back down to the little ghoul foal, the fluid draining now from a drain in the middle of the floor, while most of it stays by the door. The ghoul walked up to me as we stared deeply into each other's eyes. Thank you for telling us about the ones above. Now we can rape, murder, kill, and eat them. To myself, I thought.
That's it.
Losing my rage and anger, I heard someone wants to harm children. So this one's life is ready to die.
Well then, are you going to try to kill me then? You all have what you say, the upper hoof. So do something.
The raiders looked at me like I was crazy. Some of these raiders are very new to this, it seems. I smiled, and with my mouth, I bit the neck of the ghoul, ripping away some flesh, and ate it. As the ghoul laid there, not dead as of yet, staring at the raiders who aimed at me.
Come on, fight, kill me. Don't just stand there.
Most of the raider ponies seemed scared and shaking. I smirked, looking at the ones running away, pulling my sword from its home.
Fine, let's enjoy this hunt.
Looking down to the ghoul who is still alive even after the bite, I grabbed my sword, avoiding to go for him at first, going over instead to the pony raiders scared to death. I went into the face of a mare and stared her into her eyes and gave a smile. Then I whispered in her ear,
I will make you scream.
I grabbed the mare and grabbed a metal apple from her belt and smirked, whispering again,
Now you will tell me how to work this, or I will enjoy myself with you.
The mare was scared to death as I licked her ear and had a dark, evil smile, showing that how a warrior has to work, you must also be ready to do the unthinkable to bring fear. She explained to me, and I looked to the raiders.
Run.
Grabbing a second metal apple from the mare's battle saddle, the raiders ran into the tunnel that leads the way into here. I pulled the pin and forced it into the mouth of the mare, and then lifted her up and tossed her into the tunnel, and right after she landed, there was a boom.
Those that harm little ones are fair game.
I held the other metal apple looking to it calmly. Then to the ghoul that caused all this, who couldn't speak. I took my sword and sliced his head off. Then I held the other metal apple, pulling the pin and tossing it into the tunnel. The explosion caused it to cave in, leaving the raiders in whatever hole they're in. I turned back to Misty Moon and her little one. Even though the foal is toxic, I picked up the little one, then released Misty Moon. I carried them both to the side of the road and started to dig a grave. I placed both bodies into it, grabbing a piece of wood and started carving something in it with my claws. Then placing it on the grave. It said, "Here lies Misty Moon and her child, the ones who wished to honor both sides of a long-gone war. May this be a lesson to those that wish to follow in that path of war. All death is the same, we all bleed and die the same. For we are but the same ground. Then the ground becomes the dust. All dust is the bodies of Equestria." I went back inside and walked over to Silvergunner and nodded.
"Taken care of. There's a body of a ghoul raider down there. Go deal with it. If that is it, now you can trust me."
Silvergunner nodded, turning to head down to burn the bodies. Then, after a while, coming back up. Then we headed out, explaining what happened. "Let's go. The quest shall be done." Silvergunner calmly said. I nodded, seeing the raven fly outside and seeming to land on an old fence post, like it's waiting for another one of those robots. Day 6. City of Manhattan, close to 6 at night. The 4 of us went inside the ruins of the city, heading towards that building. "So, what's the point of this building?" Silvergunner softly spoke.
"It's a puppet-making factory, made by one of the ministries, the Ministry of Morale, ran by Pinkie Pie."
I blinked and was about to ask who that was, but when we got near the building, the pink mare stared at us as the building itself.
"Never mind. I'm gonna have that face in my nightmares."
Shadow chuckles. I heard some soft chatter between Kip and Shadow as we got closer. "So, again, why are we here?" Silvergunner looked to me.
"We're here to find toys for the children."
We walked inside the building. It seemed to be an interesting empty building. A bunch of bones and skulls. But then a strange hissing sound came. It was an odd gas that was hissing into the air. It seems like a security trigger. I could barely see, but I swear I saw something staring at me. Silvergunner was firing at something as my world went black. Ministry of Morale Puppet Factory. I opened my eyes, not sure what happened, but I still had all my gear. I saw a ghoul. The ghoul said in a raspy voice,
"Relax. I'm one of the former workers of this building, but I don't see why you're here. But it was a bad idea. This place is haunted by Pinkie Pie herself."
I blinked and looked around.
"Where are the others that I came in here with?"
The ghoul sighed.
"When I found you, you were alone."
I nodded and opened the door and saw old blood all over the place. This place seemed to be evil.
"What happened here?"
I asked calmly as the ghoul worked on the terminal and then turned on one of the recordings. It was a bubbly mare's voice, or the one known as Pinkie Pie.
"We need to make the children happy. Yes, happy. So please, make it so their puppets can come alive. But make it so I can see if their parents are traitors. So please do this.
I blinked and looked to him.
"Are you telling me these puppets are alive?"
The ghoul nodded calmly, and then he looked towards me.
"You seem new to this wasteland thing, miss. But before you leave, I can teach you how to hack terminals to help you get through this factory. But you must promise me this."
I gave him a look and tilted my head a bit, and then looked at the terminal.
"All right, what do you need then?"
The ghoul looked up to me. I saw his name on his former worker outfit, Hammerhoof. The ghoul softly spoke with the voice that he had.
I need you to save the stolen little ones from the theater. The puppets sometimes go to small places and go and kidnap the little ones. To do what Pinkie Pie always said. Always make the little ones happy. Most of them might be dead, sadly. This thing has been going on for years. I tried to take care of it myself, but the other ones that lived with me died doing this. I'm stuck here. This is one of the few safe rooms away from the magic that allows the puppets to sense me.
I blinked, not sure what I'm hearing, looking towards the way out, seeing all the blood. Then I looked back to him, sighing.
Fine. I will do this, but you teach me to hack first.
On the search for my friends, I had my sword out. I doubt my pistol could do anything on these things. I looked in every room I could find. I was told by Shadow to try to look through every room for something. I went into a room and found a terminal with the zombie-like ghouls dead on the ground. I walked in closer, and the zombie ponies stood up, growling. I had a smile on my muzzle, while the ghouls charged at me. I slashed at the ghouls, slicing into them, as blood coated my blade. One jumped on my back, so I grabbed it by its neck and smashed it on the ground. Then I stomped hard. There were many marks on my armor after that, but my eyes glowed a bit red. As a warrior like me, we have a thirst for blood. That is a bad thing about being a moon warrior. We smell our own blood, and we go into a rage. After the battle, I looked through everything in the room, calming myself a bit. I found a few bottle caps. Looking through a few more, I found some old drugs. Something called Dash and Mantiles? I found it strange. Looking around, seeing only one terminal working, I went to it and started to hack. It wasn't easy for one who just learned, but I learned the password. Puppets are evil. There was a recording and some reports. I read the reports a bit. It was mostly on how these puppets were sold to almost every family in the city. I blinked, reading that the puppets made many mistakes. Sometimes they made children look like traitors. I found a recording. It was recorded on the day the bombs fell. I downloaded it to my Pitbook. Thankfully, I was taught how to do this. And then I heard some sounds. Looking around, I saw large eyes staring at me in the darkness of an air vent. Then it went away. I put my earplugs in and started to listen.
The manager is angry. We are recalling all the puppets. They have failed in their job. I can't understand how one could kill a foal. They're just puppets. How can they kill? They're just made like every normal puppet. Unless we used something in the making that caused them to live. But I wouldn't know. I'm new here. Damn it. Something went off in the city. I need to get out of here.
The recording ended, of course, like it was fate. A ghoul jumped out at me out of the air vents. It was more than one. I got hit in the chest by its hooves, and I staggered, dropping my sword, and looked up. The armor kept me from getting harmed, but I'm sure I would have a bruise on my chest after this. I took my fist and smashed it hard into the ghoul that hit me. Then I tried to grab my sword, but of course, another ghoul jumped on my back, trying to bite my neck, as the ghoul I hit jumped on me. I was growling very angrily, and I said in a very angry voice,
"Get the fuck off of me! I'm not a damn female you can fucking hump!"
I went backwards into the wall, smashing the ghoul on my back into it. Then I reached for the other one in the wall. I grabbed the other and smashed their heads over and over till nothing was left. I dropped them on the ground, growling softly. My muscles in my body flinched, and I growled softly, my tongue hanging out, panting lightly.
Damn it. Oh, why did I have to come with others? if they can't help.
My words stopped after I heard laughing. It was a dark, evil laugh. A voice spoke out.
I wonder how you taste.
The laugh echoed. I heard something skittering along. I grabbed my sword as I was not scared. I wasn't scared to hear something.
I wonder if you could be made into cupcakes. Split open your stomach and feed the children your insides.
I blinked and looked around then. I saw a Pinkie Pie puppet, face to face. Its mane limp, its eyes wide, with a dark, evil smile. I looked to see more puppets, all with the same look. I backed off and held my sword tightly in one hand, grabbing the red dragon pistol in my other paw.
You're scared of us. I can sense your fear. Come on, let's party.
The small group of puppets charged at me. I backed up, firing at them, as the bullets from the pistol would cause some of the puppets to burn. I was lured into a wall. I had no idea if I could get out of the way. So I rolled just before they tried to get me, and I got out of the way. One of the puppets hit my hand that held the gun, and it started to bleed. I dropped it as they charged me again, cutting me through my armor, along my arms as well. I was bleeding badly, blood draining from many of my wounds. I could heal myself, but they stopped and started laughing.
You're weak. Stop this now. Come and enjoy the party.
I stood there, blood dripping from me, my lungs burning as I felt the rage growing. I held the sword in my hand through the pain I had. It was getting soaked in blood. I felt a little dazed, but of course, stupid me, I had pride. Pride had always been my downfall. I wasn't going to be taken down by non-living puppets. I wasn't going to lose this battle. I heard flapping behind me again, and I saw that raven. Why was that thing watching me? I was getting very tired of being followed. Then I looked back to the puppets, the rage filling me. Then my mind went black. I was now outside of my mind. I charged mindlessly and swung my sword, slicing some of them, and then one of them picked up my gun. It fired a shot and it hit my back, but my armor kept me safe. But I felt the bolt hit, the armor heating up some, and I passed out, dropping my sword, and the puppet dropped my gun. My vision began to blur. I felt pain in my arms. All I could make out was the puppets forcing needles in my arms and legs. I passed out from the pain and woke up on a stage hanging near Kip and Shadow, looking to them. Silver Gunner was nowhere in sight. Kip seemed to still be passed out. She was bleeding from many cuts. Shadow seemed to have no cuts. Did he pass out? He was hanging there too. As I saw the children, they seemed to be sobbing and scared to death. Some of them also seemed to be dead. Most of them were bones that littered the area. Did they do this after the bombs fell? If I saved them, they might consider me a hero. I didn't wish to be one. I just wished to follow my path. If I can save these children, then I would be happy. But I don't deserve the name of a hero. I bet there are heroes out there already, doing more than I ever could. I looked to see Kip wake up, and she looked around, her horn glowing, trying to make the room brighter. Her eyes go wide. Her voice sounded sad. So many children. Shadow opened his eyes as well and looked around.
What hit me?
He looked around and blinked. Then we got eased down to the stage and a voice sounded out. Mares and gentle colts, foals of all ages, I give you a show with new puppets. Now it's a battle of two rivals with laser swords, Dark Wolf versus Skyrunner. I was given a red sword that burned. I had no control of my arms as I looked at Shadow, who got a blue sword. We charged and fought as our swords popped and seared, as the mysterious voice started breathing deeply, having me point. The strings would move our arms, even our hooves and paws. It felt painful every time the strings moved.
Skyrunner, you know it to be true. The goddess Luna's power runs through your veins. It's strong with you. Join me, and we can rid Equestria of this war and rule together.
The voice started to speak for Shadow.
I will never join you. Oh, Pinky Wan never told you what happened to your mother. She told me enough. She said you killed her.
There was a laugh, and then the voice said,
Wrong. I am the stallion from your closet that watched your mother get plugged by a giant bat. No! Wait, what?
The show ended. There were no cheers, and we were lifted back up, and I sighed.
There will be another show in an hour.
I kept to myself as Shadow tried very hard to comfort the crying Kip. She may be a strong mare, but this is new to her. Looking around, I was trying to find a way out. Looking up and seeing that the strings are held by some strange moving bars above us. Hush, it's okay, Kip. You'll be fine. We all will be, Shadow said, trying to comfort Kip. I snorted and laughed.
Right,
I said with a laugh. The wall fell apart as we finally saw Silver Gunner, with the puppets climbing all over him trying to destroy him, but had no luck. He trotted to us after he cut us down, but we couldn't get the strings and needles removed from our bodies yet. Kip rushed to the foals and told them to get out of here. They started rushing outside. I told them all to follow the halls to a ghoul that will protect them. Then there was a loud, angry scream.
No!
You ruined everything!
The curtain of the stage fell off, and there was a large old computer still working after all these years. It had Pinkie Pie's face on it, with an angry look.
I am trying to make the children happy. Children haven't been happy since the war. We must make them happy. Children, kill them.
The computer screamed. We stood on the stage, as there wasn't any other spots they could get in by the doors and the vents near the walls. Silver Gunner rushed to the computer to try to hack it. As his backpack opened up, he tossed us our weapons. Kip had a teal-colored shotgun that had her cutie mark, and she held it in her magic. Shadow had a large minigun tossed to him, and he caught it. It had blood all over it, and it seemed to have a name on the side. The Chewer. I caught my pistol and my sword. Then the three of us started firing at the puppets. During the battle, Silver Gunner was trying so hard to shut down the system. So many puppets charging. While this was going to be a harsh time for us. Shadow's Chewer chewed through many of the puppets. More kept coming, even as they came through the window. All the puppets in the city were coming. I bet it was a lovely sight outside. So many creepy puppets heading this way.
Gunner! Damn it, we need to get out of here. Stop playing and shut that thing down.
I looked up, watching the raven fighting the puppets as well. This raven was following us everywhere. It was getting on my nerves, but I couldn't stop now. Blam, 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 came from my pistol, then a click. I didn't have time to reload. I put it in the holster and started swinging my sword and growled deeply. The room was filling to the brim of these puppets. Then they all started turning off, and looking to see Gunner, he finally broke through it. He shut it down, and then looked back to us as the puppets lay there, burning and sliced.
Now can we leave?
Silver Gunner nodded. But first, we need to get the children out of here. I growled softly, but shrugged.
Fine, let's do this, and then I can get some rest.
Back in the apartment, they allowed the ghoul to stay. He was given a job of fixing the building up. Of course, that would mean finding rubble, fixing the doors as well. The children were sent to ponies that would raise them and give them a job when it's needed. Now, you all rest before we head on our journey with Taria and Shadow." Kip nodded and left with Crossfire. I went to the clinic with Shadow, and we started talking.
"So, what's your story, Shadow?"
He looked to me and sighed. I am known as the Bloodclaw Brood. I am the last of that brood because the Enclave came in and killed most of the brood. I was just a young one at the time. Then, the Waste killed the rest of my family. I was found by Wheeltread and raised by him. He made me one of his heavy gunners, and here I am now. Not much of a glory story. I looked up, blinking.
"Enclave? Who's the Enclave?"
I asked. But before I could hear him, I saw the Raven again.
"Excuse me, Shadow."
I stood up and walked to the Raven, and then it happened. A voice came up behind me.
"Hello."
I blinked, turning to see that robot.
"Okay, I am seeing a flying metal ball. It's speaking to me. I wonder if I'm still wounded and in that stage."
"I'm Watcher. I've been told about your journey. I have also never seen a species of yours." I just stared at the orb floating there.
"Taria, Shiverclaw, warrior of the moon of my pack, now outcast. Now, what do you want?"
The orb was silent for a moment, and then it started to speak again. "I normally just speak to ponies, but I've been told what you've done. You took out a group of raiders. You ended the threat of those puppets that have been harming the Waste for years. Now tell me, you seem to be new to the Waste, but you're already out there, helping those in need." I grew angry and spoke with much rage and anger in my voice.
"I don't fucking care what happens to this wasteland. I don't care what happens to the ponies of it. I have a path of my own to follow. If my path leads me to helping others, then I will help them. I am not a fucking hero. I don't wish to be one,"
saying with a growl. Watcher seemed to stay silent for a moment. "Then explain to me, what is your path?" I sighed and thought I would tell this creature. I doubt I would ever find it again.
"I am on the search for a crystal called the Howling Dance. It was the shape of a pure full moon. I have been tasked to find it and make friends in this waste. Most that follow me I consider worthless. I don't care if they live or die."
I then turned, and Watcher said, "You're so much like her. She didn't even want to make any friends, but she learned down the line. She had to live through her journey." I stopped in my tracks, my anger growing. I didn't need anyone. These ones following me leave me alone, the better. I turned back to the orb.
"I am going to become Wheeltread's bodyguard in his underground arena."
The orb hovered there. "It's more than an underground arena. It's a market of slaves and weapons of the past, and more evil things. So much happens there. How could you go there?" I gave a look to the bot.
"It's all I have left, Watcher. It sounds like Wheeltread has an economy working in his arena. I guess he's done better than most in the Waste. I'm sorry to say, my kind are like this all the time. I was raised in that life, so I can't think of any other way to live. Maybe someday, but at the moment, I got to live."
The orb started to speak again. "Taria, you may not be a pony, but you can still do good in this wasteland. We need fighters like you. We need ones like you with the hope to fight." Sighing, I turned back to the orb.
"Look, I'm no hero. I'm just a wandering warrior. I can't do what you need me to. I don't have the will."
There was a sigh from the orb, and then it started speaking to the Raven. I couldn't make it out, but I needed to sleep and to be healed. I sat in a chair at the clinic. It seems Shadow was already being worked on. Kip came up to me and gave me a sweet smile.
"Dear, there you are. Are you okay, Miss Taria?"
she said, dripping with motherly kindness. I looked up and shrugged. She then hovered a strange book to me and a pencil.
"Write your story in there. I bet many would love to read it."
I looked up to Kip and my heart melted gently. And I never thought I would be doing this. I cared for the mare, those eyes reminding me of my mother. I have never seen one so kind to me, so respectful to me. And here I was telling Watcher I didn't care if she died. I was starting to wonder, was he right? Maybe I do need help. I took the journal from her and the pencil and smiled.
Thank you, Kip. So what's your story? What brought you here?
I started to write in the journal and sighed a bit. Maybe it was time for me to make friends. Kip spoke softly and seemed to just smile. Well, let's see. Yes. I was born in Old Appaloosa. My mother and father were raiders. For being raiders and slavers, they raised me like them. I never took into being, that. I learned light magic and magic that's used to heal all wounds. The light magic I used to scare away monsters that wished to harm us. Then, after I got my cutie mark, my parents were killed, and I had to escape. I was on my own for days. On the final day, I was expecting death. Then Silver Gunner found me and took me in. I was 20, an adult, but I went with him for 20 years, going from place to place in the waste, learning about the past and the new. We found my husband and his caravan of traders. Then, we ended up here. I smiled, calmly nodding.
Silver isn't a pony, is he?
Kip shook her head as she asked me to head inside the clinic. I was hit with a magic spell that put me to sleep. That raven was watching me again. While it was watching me again, Kip started to notice the raven as well. Its red eyes staring at me as strings were removed from my legs and arms. I woke up. It felt like a day had gone by. I looked around and got up, a bit weak. Everyone seemed to be asleep, and I stared face to face with Watcher.
You again? Why are you bothering me?
Turn on your pitbuck. I blinked and did. I heard a voice over it.
Good evening, children. DJ Pony here. It seems lately things are pretty silent for the moment. After that stable dweller cleaned out Ponyville, it went very silent. But I got wind of another story, children. In the outskirts of Manhattan, a group led by a large wolf-like being went into the old puppet factory. They seemed to save a bunch of children from some monsters inside. I don't know who these ponies or this creature is, but good on them.
Music started up as I just stared at the pitbuck. It seems, Tria, you're already being known as the wolf. I sighed and turned off the pitbuck.
Lovely. I am no hero. I don't wish to be one. But if I'm getting a name out of this, then... I'm going back to bed.
I laid back into the bed and fell asleep. Day 7, outside the apartment. It was the next day, the four of us getting everything we'd need, and then we got ready to head deep into the waste. I was told the path to Wheeltread's home is deep in a nasty part of the waste. A foal was bugging the shit out of me, jumping up and down, at how I saved her, and she was getting on my nerves. Shadow noticed this, so did the others, but I finally lost it.
Yes, you did so much to save me. You're my hero.
Growling, the fur on the back of my head stood up on end. I stood up fully. Standing up fully on the back of my feet, I stared at the filly with death in my eyes. I grabbed the little one's muzzle with my large paw, while the guards and others in the community of the apartment grabbed their guns, cocking them and aiming them at me. My voice coming out with so much anger.
I am not a fucking hero. I don't care about you ponies. I don't care if this waste murders you all. I heard stories of how friendly you ponies used to be. If you were all so friendly, then why the fuck is the waste like this?
I growled, tossing her away, and walked off. Silver Gunner watched me while Kip nuzzled the little sobbing foal. The ponies lowered their guns. The only thing I could hear was from Silver Gunner. She will learn or fall. Footnote. Level up. Wait, you just now leveled up? Wow, you suck. Also, wait, you didn't have your special yet? Damn it, girl, get your head in gear. This is the wasteland, not a disco dance. They'll be kind and give you one perk. Night vision. When it's pure darkness, you will be able to see. But be warned. They will be able to make out your glowing eyes, if they look right at you. Taria's special. Strength, 10. Perception, 9. Endurance, 6. Charisma, 1. Intelligence, 5. Agility, 6. Luck, 5.